looking at someone like Oprah, who has a stellar reputation, and you're doing this big digital transformation, or you're looking at your content, and how do you maintain that that stellar reputation in turbulent times when there's all this like madness going on, and even canceling, and you have people like Chrissy Teigen, or people who've been canceled who Oprah talks to or she's friends with, or content that's being produced? How do you maintain that when times the struggle is real out here in these social streets, Sheereen?
Yes, very much so. So I'll tell you one thing. I primarily work with Oprah and her on her network OWN, and the magazine is like a cousin to us, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so we do have some kindred and shared connections, but one thing that remains universal in any one of Oprah's respective platforms is about brand equity and the health of the brand and how she shows up, and sensitivities to all the things that you've mentioned. One of the things I can tell you that I quickly learned when I migrated over to OWN from MTV and Viacom, where I'm in ad sales. So a lot of what I do is really about soliciting dollars and getting people to invest on the network. And I might have been here, God, not even like 6 months. And I remember it's like, I've got a deal that I think we're going to close. And someone said to me, not all money is good money. And Oprah does not need everybody's money. And if it's controversial, if it's in any way going to be sensitive, we're going to say no. And it's the first time I felt empowered, quite frankly, from a position of ad sales to be able to say no to certain brands because of reputations, because of behaviors, because of things that just didn't stack up with the brand integrity that we stand for. And that's happened quite a bit, in the hills of 2020, and several brands wanting to sort of show up around the Black Lives Matter movement, but really check a box rather than be about integrity and about being committed to the cause, and more importantly, being inclusive and reflecting real integrity and intention behind their efforts. We, in many instances, had to say, you don't pass the sniff test. And if we're going to be in a marketplace talking to, and in this case, it was close to 20 million viewers with a live talk show, not a town hall rather, about where do we go from here? And we had everyone from Ava DuVernay and several others speaking with Oprah about what the healing protocols and the conversations needed to be. And so many brands wanted to be a part of that. And we had to say, let us see your advertising. That doesn't work. Let us make sure that you're clear. And more importantly, we were trolling all of their social platforms. We were looking at what their CEOs had said. There was a CEO who talked about the fact that it's hard to employ certain people of color. Like that then would become a conflict of interest. And then ultimately distract from our intention, which was healing and conversation. And thus we had to be very mindful. So one of the things that I like to take from our brand practices and employ in my own personal life is that we have a team called Standards and Practices. And essentially for every commercial that goes on, every show that goes on the network, it goes to our S&P team. They review for every curse word. They review for every potential sex scene or anything that could be deemed too mature for certain hours on the network. And I asked myself, quite frankly, if I were to post this and I were ever going to run for office, could someone come back and drag me and say, I was offensive, I wasn't being thoughtful, I was not being inclusive? If I could not stand on that, then I'm not going to post it. And it'll be in a group text with people I truly trust and know would never, ever put that out on social media, in the sense of it just may not, it could be contextualized, misinterpreted, even if my intentions are good. But if I'm like, if I had to come back and a snippet of what I said was taken out of context, or you just got a soundbite and it wasn't the full sentence, would I be able to come from a place of offense as opposed to defense and stand on that? And if you can't, in my personal opinion, it's not worth posting.
Absolutely. Sheereen, I love that. And you hit a very perfect segue. I love that OWN and the work that you do, even like you said, with ad sales, there's this level of accountability with who you do business with. And I don't know if it's just me, if it's at the time of day, if it's because I'm super excited about this panel, if it's because I love all y'all, if it's because I love our students. When you said all money is not good money, that just hit me different. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I was like, what? I thought we all was out here trying to get money and get that bag and and then you said that, and I'm like, ooh, that's profound. And you tied that to not only the brand equity and again, the reputation of OWN and Oprah, but the accountability that you all have and anybody who's going to do business with you needs to be held accountable. So with the standards and practice, I feel like I like went to church, Sheereen, even though it was not like with a preacher church, but like you just came up and just like dropped bombs, dropped the mic, and left the pulpit. Like that's why I just feel it just happened. At least
well, Brandi, I would just compliment that by saying right now where we see that there are talent wars and opportunities for people to migrate quickly and easily to new places if they so desire. Mm-hmm. It is critical that as you think about how you position yourself, that you also could stand if an interviewer or an employer says, tell me more about said post, or tell me more about what you meant when you said this. And that with eloquence and an empowered and affirmed point of view, you could say, this is what I mean. And it represents who I am. And also part of the brand equity that I bring to your brand that they're going to trade off on, because they do think of you as an extension of who they are. And more importantly, that level of accountability translates to the executives and the staff and the people with whom they hire, because once you're in contract, literally or not, but in bed with an employer, in the sense that probably not the best way of describing the contract terms, but rather once you are aligned with
a partnership,
yes, or you're employed, you're a representative. And so your history and your tenure in the space of social is also part of their acquired relationship with you. And they then too become accountable should someone come back and drag them about why said communications, executive had this on her social media platform 2 years ago, and I recently had to do that for a young woman, quite frankly, who is looking for non-employment, looking to be promoted within an organization. And I wasn't even scrolling for the purposes of I was really just being nosy, like, let me just see what she does and her fun time and all that kind of stuff. And I found a post from 3 years ago that I thought could be absolutely offensive, especially in the role that I'm in, which is around inclusion audiences and making sure that everyone feels accurately represented and supported. And I just was like, listen, off the record, pull this off now, because it won't serve you here or elsewhere. And hopefully this preempts anyone ever else seeing it and it being a problem.
That's good advice. That's great advice.